Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is the second episode of Mind, Body, and Spirit. And I am super excited to have Dr. Doreen Downing with me. I met her through Lynn Velling. So if some of you may remember, I had a live stream with Lynn, I would say it was almost a year ago. Gosh, I don't know. Time goes by so fast. I can't keep up with it. But Dr. Doreen Downing was the trainer for Lynn. So I am super excited to have her here. She is a clinical psychologist, and we really want to talk about how people get in their own way and are just kind of really scared about coming forward and learning how to speak and learning how to use their voice. So, Dr. Doreen, welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Sonia, that was wonderful introduction, and the way that you expressed it. It's not necessarily about people becoming public speakers on a stage. It's about finding our voice. We speak all day long. Are
Yes,
we
right?
feeling like we're tapping into our own truth, and are we coming from a sense of what we really believe, and are we communicating from our hearts? It's a whole different thrust that I take here in helping people get over the fear of speaking.
Yeah. So now, can you share with us a little bit about your background and what made you decide to step into this space of helping people with their voice and learning how to speak?
Well, let's see. I got a PhD from the University of California, Berkeley, and I had a nice little white coat that I sat in my office. I mean, metaphorically. And as long as I had just one person in front of me, I could hide my fear of public speaking. I went through my whole training all the way and got my license and was pretty much a successful professional in Berkeley, California as a clinical psychologist. And I hid my fear of, I hid stage fright, basically. I
Okay.
knew I had it. Uh,
Yeah.
yes.
Wow. So now what was the one thing, could you say, that made you step out of that fear and step into learning how to speak in front of others?
I did research, and I was asked to be on a committee that would report at a big conference, and I said, no way. I mean, first it was being on a committee, but second it was presenting the results on stage. And I said, no way, Jose, I've got stage fright. And the organizer, the meeting planner, was the one who, I would say, you could say it's anywhere from confronting to shaming, depending
Wow.
on how. I mean, I know you're a mindset worker, so it was like, what mindset was I in when the person said, "But you're a doctor," that kind of, what's wrong with you?
Right,
That
right.
kind of, kind of shaking me into. Well, so no, I did not. I did not go on stage at that conference, but it was the beginning of me saying, "Hey, yeah, that's true. I'm working with people every day in my office about their
Mhm.
fears, and I haven't yet taken time to step into the arena to bring my fear." And that is the key. The first step is to admit you got a fear. You don't
Mhm.
want to go there, but in order to get to the other side, you do have to go to where it's scary for you. And
Absolutely.
that's what I did. I took a class at San Francisco Learning Annex, Overcome the Fear of Public Speaking, just a
Mhm.
basic one. It was so scary. I just sat there kind of shivering the whole time. Here I have a PhD in psychology, and I'm sitting in the back of the room hoping I'm not going to get called on, and just um, but what's interesting is that about a year later, I started teaching that class. So
Isn't that something?
I found that the not that class, but another class. It was called Breakthrough Performance, I think, and it was more physical, and we were to act out our fear. So my fear
Mhm.
was like crouching all the way down into a ball and hold, just really getting tight, tight, tight. I don't want to come out. Don't let me come out. I don't want to.
Yeah.
And in that class, I had a breakthrough. it was just like, so I was crouched on the floor. I lifted my head up and I looked, and the audience was out there, but I looked at the one person in the front row and I went, oh, this is like my office. Just one person in front of me.
Mm.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of other people, but all I have to do is look at another person, and I know how to speak to one person at a time.
Yes.
Oh, so it was a moment of a breakthrough that I discovered something about what it might take, the beginning of what it might take for me.
Yes. That is fantastic. I mean, it's you wouldn't think, right? You would automatically assume that people that that are doctors or lawyers or whatever their profession is, that you would think that, oh, no problem. They don't have any fears. They have it all together. But when it comes down to it, we're just human beings. We all have our insecurities. We all have different things that we feel that need to work on. But the one thing that I really like that you said is that realizing that you do have a fear, and here you are working with people and their fears, and you're like, but wait, I need to work on my fears. So I think that's really important for all of us to understand, if we're in a place of service, that in whatever work that we do, it's important to do the work on ourselves too, so that we can show up in a special way, in a way that we can help others while we're helping ourselves. And I think that's the best thing that you can do for someone, because now you have that connection. You have that connection of, I understand, I've been there too. So that's great. And to have that breakthrough, that must have felt amazing.
Yes. And what you're talking about, having been there, and so that people can trust that. Yes, I work with, of all things, lawyers. I work with, uh, I have clients who are on boards of directors. I have somebody who's the VP of sales,
Oh,
who
wow.
has to get up every week and give a report to his sales team, and he's afraid of public speaking. So
Mhm.
but people are choosing me because, one, they know I'm a professional, I've been there, and second, with psychology, I know how to get at the root of speaking anxiety, and I know how to treat it. And then my process is much more around mindfulness, which is different than having people learn how to give a better speech.
Right, right, exactly. And the other thing too, that when we talk about public speaking, a lot of times when you say, I know for me, when I would think public speaking, yes, that I would have to be on this big stage and talking to all these people. But it could be that you're at a staff meeting, right, of 10 people or 5 people even, and still some people fall apart. Like, that's something that they cannot do. So I think it's important for us all to find our voice and to be able to express it, and not to shy away from that. So it doesn't matter how big the platform, right? It's something that
Ooh,
everyone should learn how to be able to do and feel comfortable doing.
I love that analogy. I hope people heard that. It doesn't matter the platform, and even a platform could be a dinner table with your extended family where you are holding yourself back from speaking up,
Mm,
or even, well, we'll talk more about what my process is, but even with a loved one, finding
yes,
your voice, right?
that is so true.
I would
That is
say
so
that's
true.
definitely
Yeah.
true of me. Took me a long time to learn how to say I love you.
Yes, in relationships, to be in that space of vulnerability,
Yes.
to allow yourself to express yourself in a way, and that fear of being judged or turned down, or whatever emotions come up for another individual. It can be really scary to be in that
Yeah,
space, to
yeah.
allow yourself to say what it is that you want to say. So I'm
Yeah,
glad you mentioned that.
uh-huh, yeah.
Wonderful. So let's go into talking a little bit about your process. What is your process? And but before you dive into that, I wanted to ask as well, when did you have your after your breakthrough, when was
Uh-huh.
your first time that you had that public speaking moment?
Ooh, let's see. Well, I joined Toastmasters because that was a platform, as you say, where you could get up and speak. and have specific kind of speeches you can work on. And there was also leadership opportunities there. So I would say that was a good start, but I have to tell you, it did not go as deep as I needed to go in terms of finding my voice.
Mm-hmm.
I was part of Toastmasters for 7 years. And I won contests. I know how to give a good speech, a good, a way to engage people, inspire them, and use my vocal variety and gestures and all of that. But I have to tell you, I talked about hiding. I hid as a psychologist. I think that learning how to be a speaker on a stage was a way that I also hid.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so what would be the difference then, from Toastmasters, where you feel like you're hid, and then to where you are now, and what did you do differently? What was the difference?
Well, again, it's that first, oh, something's not absolutely true right now. I'm doing a performance, which
Mhm.
is a type of speaking for sure. But it
Right.
just wasn't the kind of speaking I felt like was my best and biggest contribution
Mhm.
to give speeches. I felt I wanted to be more of myself and what I know and what I've learned, even about, let's say, like speaking anxiety. I wanted to share it more about the truth of what holds us back. And it wasn't so much about learning how to give a speech, it was about learning how to reach people and help them, wake them up to the fact that their fear was holding them back from the potential that lies within, the beauty, the magnificence, all of what it takes to tap into the essence, the core essence of who we are. So I think that realization, somewhere along the line, it came, and there was also a moment there too. I was at I don't know, it wasn't quite national, but I was on my way to being a national winner, contest winner. It was after I'd already started this other process, which you're familiar with, speaking circles, which
Mhm.
is much more about learning to speak from a different place inside of ourselves, more vulnerable, more real, rather than kind of the canned speaking that professional speakers do sometimes.
Mhm.
And I had this wonderful, I won't go into it, but I felt it was a very vulnerable speech about
Mhm.
having gotten diabetes and what that what that meant for me and my understanding. So when they started to call the winners third place, and I went, ooh, I probably got second or first. And then the second place, I guess I got first place because I felt so good about giving it. I felt I
Yeah.
was finally so real. And I didn't win the first place. It was somebody who is a comedian, entertaining, and
Wow,
yeah,
really?
really. I mean, he was a great orator, you might say,
Mhm.
putting on a great performance. And that's when I realized, oh, this kind of platform speaking is not what I'm going for in my life. I'm going
Mhm.
for something more real. And how do I do that? And that at that point, I made a choice to not continue on developing platform speaking skills.
Mhm. The one thing I love that you said was that, coming from that core essence of who you are, and I think that's so important because that's what makes you relatable. That's that connection that you get with another individual, with your audience, right? You have that connection, and I never did Toastmasters, or any of that because it just terrified me. The one class, I looked into it, and I remember they said, "Come prepared with something to read," and I'm like, well, are you gonna tell me how to stand and how to talk to people? And I mean, I don't know their process. I can't speak on it because I haven't been there. But the one thing I can say, and we'll talk a little bit about your process and what led you to get into speaking circles. For me, for speaking circles, as many of us are, we're empaths. So I'm so into my feelings, and what it excuse me, what it did was it helped me to tap into my emotions and into my feelings, because that's the part of me that I needed to feel to be able to express myself in a way that didn't make me nervous. So it was, I mean, of course, we still get a little nervous, but
Uh-huh.
it was a different way, a different process, and I
Yes.
just felt like, "Okay, this is me, like, I'm okay with this because this is me and this is how I feel, and now I'm able to express it in a way where I
Yeah.
don't feel all over the place, and I feel a little more controlled with it." So, it's a beautiful, and for those of you that did not catch that live stream with Lynn, go back and check that out as well, but we're gonna talk a little bit about it more, and the reason why I wanted to have Dr. Doreen on is to share a different perspective of where she came and how she stepped into this and what she's doing to help people with their speaking. So now, what led you to wanting to go to speaking circles, and talk a little bit about your process?
Well, I think it was, Lee Glickstein, who's the founder of Speaking Circle. He had a flyer and it was set, I don't know, all I remember is the phrase transformational speaking.
Hmm.
Right, and does that mean I'm speaking in a way that transforms my audiences? Which was truly more of what I wanted to do rather than just being an entertainer or a comedian on stage or a good speaker,
Right.
right? I really wanted to reach people and help with the whole process of transforming wherever I could do that, and I still thought I could do it in front of people, in
Hmm.
front of groups, of course, and then, you asked about a moment, Lee, because I was training director at this time, but I'd never really been in front of hundreds of people. And we were in England working with a group of people, and he called me on stage. Kind of, I was there to support and doing a lot of the administrative stuff. And he asked me to get on stage. And Sonia, it was one of those moments. It was one of those breakthrough moments again, just like in that class I talked about. And it was the same thing. I looked out and my heart was just about to come out of my, it was so hit. It just was, my head was pounding with the beating that was in my heart.
Yes.
But then I found that one person. I found that
Mm.
one person who was in the audience who felt like she had a friendly smile. And I just went, oh, I'm safe. All I have to do is
Wow.
be with one person here and speak to this one person. I know how to have a conversation with one person at a time. And then, and what came out of me was in the moment, which is beautiful, right? Like you're
Mhm.
talking about with, uh, I had done enough work on reaching my feelings and being not afraid to share them. And so I think I talked about the waves. I'm from California, and this feels like waves along the beach, and it's waves of fear. And I became known as the wave chick in that conference.
I love it. Oh,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. Yeah, I had a similar experience. That was my breakthrough moment of stepping on stage. I got called on. Actually, I got picked on. I was trying to hide.
Yes.
And I think that's why I got chosen, because they wanted someone who was scared of public speaking to get
Yes.
on stage to express themselves. So that's where I had my breakthrough. And afterwards, that's what led me to the speaking circles, because I said, okay, I just had this amazing, powerful moment. There was over 100 people in the room.
Uh-huh.
And now I want to learn how to do this to really get pushed past this fear of speaking in front of people. Um, so after you did that, and that's when you started getting more into working with speaking circles. Let's talk a little bit more about that, and what your process was after that. What made you decide to start helping people?
Well, already in my office as a psychologist, I was working with people individually and so fascinated with what's inside of us and really believing that there's more, the potential
Mhm.
to. But I think in the speaking circle process, I really had a more of an experience of what this more is within us.
Mm.
This essence is what I call it. And um, that's when I decided that I really needed to begin to dedicate more of my expertise to people who have fear of speaking. So I wrote a book, and it was based a lot on the speaking circle approach, which is about finding within yourself the voice of who you truly are. And there, what we practice in speaking circles are partly that one person at a time, which I
Mhm.
learned early on. But the other is, and I don't know whether to go. I think I'll just go in how I integrated speaking circles into my book and my process and my coaching, is that the first step is be still,
Mm.
be silent. And that's one of the biggest fears people have, is that they're going to, lose their way, and they're going to fall apart, and they're going to forget. So let's learn just to calm your body in the midst of anxiety, to learn how to go to the gym and practice inner presence muscle. How do we do that? Over and over and over again. And that, once you do have that capacity to break through fear
Yeah.
and drop down to a more to inner strength, you might say, inner strength, then you can do it like in a pretty quickly, in a heart, well, maybe 2 heartbeats.
In your book that you're mentioning, this is the 7 Secrets to Essential Speaking. Is that the book you're referring to?
Yes, find your voice, change your life. Yes, and the
Mhm.
reason why I call them secrets is because if you're going to be working on any kind of speaking training, most people are doing it in a traditional fashion. And what I'm saying, it's not about speaking, it's about being. And that's
Mhm.
why each one of my secrets starts with be. Be still, be present, be available, be attuned, be positive, be connected, and be yourself. So be yourself. It's a journey to be, we're not
Right, it is,
we're
yes.
not talking about doing. Speaking can be about doing. This is about being. And so the reason why I have it at the very end is because by the time we go through the process, you, just like you're talking about, this kind of inner discovery, this inner exploration, where you do learn much more about yourself. And uh, even the mindset work that you do is about an inner exploration, right? Like, how
Mhm.
how come how come this is locked? How come you're locked into that particular mindset? Something must have happened that you went, got to stay here,
Yeah,
right? For
yes.
safety.
And I love that of doing that inner work, because I think for me, some of the stuff that came up for me is, well, who am I? Who am
Uh-huh.
I? Who am I to be this person to share my voice? And who am I to just be? Like it was these insecurities that I started building on myself that kept me small. And I needed to play small, because too big, people are going to be either I'm going to be judged, or people looking at me. And it was like all these different things. So I know people have this coming up, but the more that we learn to be comfortable with ourselves, and that's what I like to express to people, you are authentically you. There's no
Mhm.
one else that's like you. So that is what makes you special. That is the essence of you. So lean into that, feel good about that, and praise that part of you, whether it's quirky or weird or out, whatever people define themselves as. That's you. So embrace that part of yourself. And I think when we get to that part, then it makes it us a little bit easier to slowly start opening up.
Mhm. I love all the words you're using. Lean into, embracing,
Yeah.
in a way. We need to help people, and we need to guide them on what to do. What does leaning into mean? What does embracing mean? Because it could be just a concept, but I think the work that we do, we help, we hold people in the, so that they can move through the fear slowly. We don't push. We don't say, get out there and do it anyway. Feel the
Right.
fear and do it anyway. We're saying, okay, fear can transform itself if we go slowly and we discover, and we know that at the end of this tunnel we're going through is a light, and that light is the brilliance of who we truly are. And the
Mhm.
belief, I think, that you and I portray or hold for people while they don't believe it,
Mhm.
that helps to find the strength, because we have strength. We've been there. We
Yes,
know. We
absolutely.
know it's a
Absolutely.
journey.
It is. Indeed, it is. And that's the thing, right, everyone? It's about you having patience, divine patience with
Ooh, there
this
you go
journey.
again with those
Yes.
wonderful words, divine patience. I mean, there's patience, but putting divine with it
Mhm.
makes it almost compelling. Oh, I want to go on that divine. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely. So talk about like what are some of the things like if someone came to you and I came to you and I said, "Okay, Dr. Doreen, I want to learn more about your programs, like I'm scared or I don't even know how to talk to my family member." Where would you begin with that individual?
Oh, I love it. In fact, a family member of a child I just started working with, a 15-year-old,
Oh,
uh,
fantastic.
contacted me and say, um, I want to work with you. It's about anxiety. And so the father said, it's not about speaking anxiety. He plays a game on a field. I don't think this is revealing anything confidentiality, but it's about being a soccer player.
Mhm.
And do you work with that? And I said, I think any way in which we express ourselves and anxiety gets in the way, that I can work with that. And
Mm.
so, it's not so much about giving a speech in a class. It was more, but it was still about performance, right?
Mhm.
He's
Mhm.
on a platform, as you said, which is called the field, and people are sitting in the stadium, which it would be like any stage, and looking at him performing his, or expressing, his, whatever it is, his skill. He's communicating something through his body, which is called soccer. And I was really excited to have my first session with him the other day, and to um, feedback. So first of all, the father, I guess, reached out to me and felt my passion and felt my skill, and trusted that, what is it, over 30 years of psychology, clinical
Yes.
psychology work, plus just my relatability, I guess, is what compels people to work with me. And also that I've been on the journey to find my inner strength. So
Yeah.
all of that, if somebody comes to me, I think what they get is my warmth, and just like you, my dear, it feels like we're of the same tribe, where we have learned something and we are dedicated to share our knowledge, and we definitely have expertise, and we know what the inner journey is about. So that would be my first response to your question. If somebody
Mhm.
comes to you, it's more about our relationship that they have to begin to believe or trust. And I
Yes.
know that I have one thing that I know for sure when people sometimes work with me, is that they don't believe that they could
Mm.
ever get there,
Yes.
ever get
Yes.
to comfort with speaking in front of groups. It's not within their mindset. They don't.
Mhm. Mhm.
And uh, that's what I was talking about a few minutes ago, is holding the belief that they don't have. So I'll say, I notice you don't. You don't believe it, do you? And they say no. So I have to start there. I have to start with, and I said, well, can we just inch a little way to, I know you. Is it like you wish? Yeah, I wish. Okay, that's movement, isn't it? From
Mhm.
not believing to wish. So that kind of
Mhm.
opening. opening to possibility is
Yes.
the beginning of hope, I guess. And so we go, okay, can we go to hope? That
Mhm.
kind of playing in that realm of wishing, hoping. I know, Obama says it's not a strategy, but it's the beginning of possibility, is hoping that it could be, I could do it. I could do it. Well,
Yes.
from hope, then where can we go? Can you begin to, um, can you even begin to hope that this process with me will make a difference for you? Yes,
Mhm.
that's why I'm hiring you. Okay, let's go.
Well, you're speaking on too a lot what I work with clients on, that emotional scale. And so that vibrational scale. So when
Oh,
I'm
tell me
talking to
more.
people, yeah,
Mhm.
when I'm talking to people about manifesting and wanting to raise their vibration, so we have like these lower emotions that we're dealing with here, and you can't really work out of those emotions. Now, they're lessons, like the fear, the anxiety, the doubt, anger, all of these emotions, they do serve a purpose. I wouldn't necessarily call them negative because they're there to teach us something.
Yes,
But
good.
then yes, and what we wanna do is kinda get people up here in this higher vibrational of, and that's where hope is kinda like right here, right? Because that's that lifeline you're throwing to that individual to pull
Yes.
them up even further till we get way up here in the joy and the happiness and all those really rich feelings that we would love to be in that space all the time, but teaching people how to get to that space, and it's kind of with the same with the speaking, right? And helping them get out of their way, that you want to help raise that vibration so that they're able to be in that space to have that voice to speak on whatever it is that they want to share with others.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
No matter where it might be, one-on-one or large audiences.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, what information, I mean, you shared quite a bit, but what one little tip would you say to someone right now that's watching where they can start? Let's break it down. Let's not say we're going to put somebody on a stage right now, but they need to have that conversation with a loved one. And it's a really difficult conversation. So, what is one piece of advice, or if you want to share a couple things that they can do to help get in that space to be able to have this conversation with their loved one?
Good question. I think it first would be the inner work that we're talking about, is to uh, sit down with themselves and say, well, what am I afraid of? The facing the fear, list out the fear that the person's going to get mad, the person's going to walk out the door, the person's going to throw something. I don't know, the person's going to, whatever those fears are. I think that's first what we have to do, is face the fear. And the second step would be to, the best we can, go down to what I think what you just illustrated, is what's happening in the emotional, the lower, you might say, the vibrational levels.
Mhm.
What's going on in that emotional area? What is the lesson that you are trying to learn here in this emotional, fear, that it, because it's probably fear, anxiety that's holding you back. So that kind of inner work means discovering, well, what is it that I really want to have happen here, and I can't make it because I'm too afraid. So if you list out the fears, and then I would say embrace them. That was another one of your wonderful words. So it's face, embrace, and replace is something that I learned
I like
from,
that.
what was his name? Billy Atwell uses that frame: face, embrace, replace. So
Place.
that's kind of, I think that I could share that, and also acknowledge Billy for using those wonderful words. And it gives you a step-by-step process. So what do you do when you embrace? Well, the little one inside is probably the one, afraid,
Mhm.
the little more vulnerable part of you.
Our
And
inner child, our
we
precious
could
inner
face
child.
Yeah, I love that. Precious inner child, so that the part of us that doesn't judge ourselves but wants to, and I'm holding myself right here, this the one that any kind of child who is scared wants to be, usually
Mhm.
can be comforted and wants to be soothed. So we do some self-soothing work, whichever way in which that works for people, whichever way, who's ever listening right now. How do you soothe yourself? How do you calm yourself? How do you assure yourself? And then replace it would be more about, well, what do I need to bring to this conversation? And what I would say, even what if the worst thing happens, like they walk out the door? How do you handle that? How do you
Good
prepare
one.
yourself? Or even preempting, this is more about communication techniques. I know this is going to upset you when I say this, but I'm hoping that you can give me space to say what I need to say and not walk out the door. So you've already set it up, right?
Right, right.
Of what
Beautiful.
the worst thing that might happen for you.
Mhm. Um, this also reminds me, just in general, with anybody that has any kind of fears or anxieties or doubts, not necessarily having to have a conversation with anyone, but just working through whatever it is for them. We just had this, well, we're still in it. I know some people may argue on that, but we're in this pandemic, right? And that brought
Mhm.
up a lot of fears and anxieties for people. So there still may be some people that choose to quarantine because they're, too nervous to go out, or maybe they have a fear of something else, not necessarily having to talk to someone, but this sounds like a process that they can use to work with those inner fears of whatever
Ah,
comes up for them. That's what it
yes.
sounds like.
Yes, I think so too. And that's kind
Mhm.
of, I guess, what I said about the father who wanted his son to start working with me. What's so great about that conversation I did have with the son is that the father got back to me and said when he came out of the room, he was glowing. He had a smile and
Oh,
he was beaming. And he has a game today, so I'm waiting to hear what some of the suggestions I made. A lot of that kind of visual rehearsal, the mental rehearsal of seeing
mhm.
himself on you might say, the platform, the stage, the field, and what he's, if you're rehearsing tragedy, then you're rehearsing it,
Exactly.
so catch yourself and rehearse something else that's more positive for yourself.
Yes, that's basic law of attraction, guys. So whatever you're going to put out there, that's what you're going to get in return. So you want to bring in all that good stuff for yourself. That's where you want to put your mindset on all the great things that could happen, all the possibilities, right? Versus what
Uh,
can't happen. So, yes,
yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, me
Beautiful.
too. Thanks for saying that.
Yes. So, where can people find you? What information that you want to share? If someone's interested, like they want to get more. So, if anyone has questions or they want to figure out how to coach with you, what's the best way for them to reach you?
I think, why don't we just put out my email? I
Okay.
know that I had said my website, but if people, I mean, I think I feel like I've really expressed myself, and the audiences that are drawn to you are probably people that I would want to work with too, specifically around speaking anxiety. And that would be Doreen, Doreen, Doreen at Essential Speaking.
Okay, let
And
me get that. While I'm
Doreen,
putting that in, let me just at least go ahead and put up the website.
yeah,
So,
the
yeah, the
website is a
website
way
here.
they could sign up and instantly get all 7 secrets that I talk about in my book, but they won't get to me directly. So if they want to get to me directly, I would love to welcome any kind of conversation about speaking anxiety. And I do work in collaboration with coaches and with therapists and healers, because I've designed and developed this specific aspect around speaking.
Beautiful. So there is the email. Any questions, please feel free to reach out directly to Doreen. Also visit her website at essentialspeaking.com. And any last words you'd like to leave, Doreen, before we sign off here?
Actually, Sonia, my words feel like it are there for you, which is such a pleasure to have you be such a good listener today. You know, my experience with you on this show is one in which I feel like I've been more true to myself, and I'm not trying to, help people be stage presenters. I'm really helping people be what your work is about, which is having people learn that expressing themselves is so important. And so I want to give you lots of gratitude and appreciation for giving me a platform to be myself and to find somebody like you who understands and welcomes and wants to be engaged with this kind of deep inner work.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you being here and providing all this wonderful information to us. So thank you for your time, your energy, and your commitment to helping others, your service. It's needed and very appreciated. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right, everyone. Thank you for listening here. Please leave a comment down below what you thought of the show today. And until next time, all right, take care.